Today we got a late update, but update 6.11 is here nonetheless with a big horde of refines, last batch before book 7. In this video we'll be talking about Cynthia, Python, Fallen Female Corrin, and Petra. We'll talk about the new skills and discuss playstyle and builds. In a separate part 2 video, I'll be covering our other units, Dual Hector, Legendary Eliwood, and Mythic Yoon. When that part is over, I'll have links in the description, the end card, and my pinned comment, so you can head on over. These 7-man refined batches are getting a bit too long. First up is Cynthia, a Heroic Grail Lance Flyer with a rather balanced stat spread. This will match her new weapon, the Lance of Heroics, quite well. This is a 16-mine lance, and if an ally has less than 80% HP, Cynthia can warp next to them, aka better Wings of Mercy. At start of combat, if she has more than 25% HP, grant plus for all stats and additional stats equal to the number of spaces from start position to end position of whoever initiated combat times 2. Max of plus 8 for a total of plus 12 overall. This is the same mechanic as the new Clash skills, and warping does count to total movement. Cynthia can move 2 spaces normally, which would get her plus 8 to all stats, but if you can Wings of Mercy from 4 spaces out, that can get you up to plus 12. For a Heroic Grail unit, this is actually quite a lot of stats from the base weapon, but that's kinda all Cynthia gets. I say this because for her refine, if Cynthia is within 3 spaces of an ally, she gets plus for all stats and bonus to each stat during combat equal to the current penalty on each of those stats times 2, calculated independently. This is basically a spectrum unity effect, so if Cynthia is debuffed, she'll turn those around on the foe. Feel free to stack unity effects or the grand strategy status from Dual Crom. Overall, Cynthia stacks a ton of stats, and she has a balanced stat spread, so nothing is wasted here. Bit of a similar feeling as Thea's Refine as a Jack of all trades, Master of none type unit. Besides Wings of Mercy, Cynthia can get plus 16 to all stats if she warps from 4 spaces out, or if the attacker does the same. You then got Unity to counteract debuffs, but that does not negate debuffs, which may be better in certain scenarios. Either way, we got a ton of stats, and I'll assume most people are fully investing in Cynthia if they're using this refine, which means merges and dragon flowers. Definitely a lot of numbers. For builds and playstyles, with the bigger HP threshold on Wings of Mercy, you could try to set up Gale Force type build and then let Cynthia herself becomes a Wing of Mercy beacon for allies. There are some issues with this though, as Lance of Heroics does have that 25% HP condition if you wanted to fight again. Cynthia also has no special cooldown reduction effects besides Heavy Blade. Sure, she can stack a lot of stats, but we're starting at 32 base attack, so not a guaranteed proc either. Generally speaking, this playstyle would require some outside help, like Thor or even Dual Crom himself. If you want to add some offensive abilities, you got Flow Guard. That would be nice to get doubles and not get hit by a special. For a simpler setup, Cynthia can for sure run Near Trace and Rain C skills. Near Trace's counter remaining +1 does work after Wings of Mercy warping, and you can stack debuff effects for even more stat advantages here. Some combo of attack Near Trace and Rain could add more bulk to Cynthia, or maybe double up on speed debuffs or defense debuffs. For A skills, while you may want to run Clash 4 since Lance of Heroics basically has the same mechanic, remember that Clash also neutralizes debuffs on 2 stats, which does not synergize with Unity. It's a lot of stats, but might not be worth it. Instead, good old Catch 4 works great, and things like Surge Sparrow or Sturdy Impact also are fine. You can also stack Unity, but you're gonna need debuffs for that to shine. Again, maybe pair Cynthia with Dual Crom's dual skill. For some other options, for a budget build, you could do something like solos or bonds and forms with speed and defense link, which Cynthia already comes with. Very basic stat stacking skills. In the B slot, you could use Dive Bomb or Desperation. Maybe Guard Bearing could be fun. For C skills, if Cynthia can survive, Tear for Smokes could be fun. Any of them could work for her, but you need to make it through the first fight. Something like Defense from Smoke 3 with its Pathfinder status could synergize with Lance of Heroics. You can Wings of Mercy in, use Near Trace for Contour to reposition, and Pathfinder an ally ahead. You can do the same idea with something like Guidance, or any allies who can warp to Cynthia. Speaking of which, you also got Oath 4 C skills just to bring even more warp options. All in all, Cynthia got an interesting refine with some nice benefits, but it's mainly all about stacking stats in every category. She'll be decently fast, have some nice bulk, and improve her damage as well. You can fly in to save allies if needed, and Unity helps with debuffing. For better combat, you may want skills that add other effects such as offensive follow-up from flow skills. Stats are good, but skill effects can be more impactful. Next up, we have Python, a 3 to 4 star green cavalry archer. Python was a pretty interesting demote, being a bow cav and a colored archer. However, we also got Wrath and in modern times Sedgar also occupying that spot. What made Python stand out, even against Sedgar, is his 31 base defense, which is not crazy, but comparatively, that's the highest defense out of any bow cavalier. at least until Spring Harry dropped by with his hilarious 40 defense. Python's res will take a hit, but being able to stand against all the distant counter users is nice. Now, for his new weapon, the Snide Bow, this is 14 might, and at start of combat, if Python has 25% or more HP, he gets plus 5 attack and speed, and plus 7 true damage per hit. Very simple offensive perks. For the Refine, if unit initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, inflict -5 speed and defense on the foe during combat, and inflict more speed and defense debuffs equal to the current bonus on the foe's stats, times 2, calculated independently. So Snide Bow isn't bad, but it's not really that interesting either. At its core, you got plus 5 attack and speed, -5 speed and defense debuffs, so effectively plus attack and speed. You get more damage via the 7 true damage, and Python has the in-combat panic type effect. If the foe has field buffs, Python turns those around against them by doubling the value in debuffs, which cancels out the buff, and the foe still loses stats. That's not bad, but it also is not in your control if the enemy has field buffs. It's a good effect, but like Panic or Unity, you can't really control it consistently. In general, Snide Bow is just an offensive weapon, but that's about it. Python gets some much needed attack and speed, but sadly this weapon does nothing for his physical bulk, his standout trait. If the Refine had also turned attack buffs into debuffs on the foe, then I think that would have been a nice addition. However, you get no defensive help from this weapon, which is I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity. Still, it's not so bad, but you may need to adjust your build. With that said, some of you may already be ready to roll if you picked up the Farm So Python from this year. With Snide Bow, we have an offensive weapon, so the pretty standard attack and speed catch 4 and far trace build should do just fine. The only issue with this is that Python has no way to bypass follow-up denial. Bow Cavaliers have no follow-up type skills, so if you try to attacking a tank, you may only get one shot. If they have damage reduction, well, it's also going to be very hard to proc Deadeye. Now, instead of far trace, some might have gotten low speed and defense. Sadly, because Snide Bow reverses enemy speed and defense field buffs, you shouldn't use it with lows since it will neutralize the buff. Basically, we're left with far trace or something like desperation as our options. Well, there are a couple other ones. I kind of lied when I said Python can't bypass follow-up denial because technically you can do it with breaker skills. As a green archer, you can run Lance Breaker to cancel out follow-up denial, and you prevent quick riposte as well. It's only against one unit type, but it's something. We do have a new challenger though, and that Beastlawn, and that's Seal Defense 4 from the upcoming Ninja banner. I will spend more time talking about the upgraded tier 4 Seal B skills in the breakdown video, but for now, I do think it's an option you can take. Python could stack even more in combat defense debuffs on top of Snide Bow, as long as the enemy does not neutralize defense penalties. If you can apply a defense debuff like with Attack and Defense Menace, Seal Defense 4 also grants Guard, which would be useful if Python does get doubled back. These effects work on either phase as well. Unfortunately, it is a damage skill essentially, and if Python can't double, then it's a bit wasted. Consistently doubling is going to be our biggest obstacle here, besides outspeeding non-tanks. Last thing I want to discuss is what stats to invest in. More attack and speed is fine, but if you did want to lean into Python's small defense niche, then you could sacrifice attack or speed. For example, Snide Bow has some decent damage thanks to the true damage part and the plus attack. You could go with speed and defense catch instead of attack and speed. You can get the tier 3 on Somerset. We have the Sacred Seal version coming next, and Sane has the tier 4 on the Mythic banner. You can run solo skills or Rouse C skills, but with catch skills, you can use them on the enemy phase easier, which may be better for defensive purposes. Now you could also instead drop speed, go for all attack and defense, and maybe with Seal Defense 4 you can dent a target with that one good shot. A lot of options, although Snide Bow generally is more about offense. Overall, this isn't a bad weapon, but without no follow-up type skills for Python, I think it may struggle. Some players may instead prefer the White Cap Bow, which can simulate a double with a Brave attack, and you can get that quad attack potential. You then got the Ninja Brave Bows, which are also coming back this month. Moving on, we have Fallen Female Corrin, a colorless infantry dragon. Honestly, at this point, it's starting to get confusing between all the Corrin dragon alts. This one is similar to her counterparts with decent attack and speed and a balance of defense and res that will be boosted further. Savage Breath did get some upgrades. It's a 16 Dragonstone that grants +3 attack, and it grants more stats in combat based on how many allies are within 2 spaces of Corrin. If there are none, then Corrin gets +7 to all stats. This will scale down the more allies that are nearby, and at 4 or more nearby allies, you get nothing. Basically, the old effect got bumped up +1 to each value. A new addition is that if Corrin has 1 or fewer nearby allies, she also neutralizes stat penalties during combat. This is a very strong effect and will be relevant when we talk about a later debuff heavy refine. As for the special refine for Corrin, if she has more than 25% HP, add another plus for all stats, and to simplify, she gets Dragon's Wrath with a certain X percentage. This X value is equal to 30 minus number of allies within 2 spaces times 10. Just like the base effect, you're gonna want no one nearby, and that's gonna give Corrin 30% damage reduction for 1 hit, and a one-time true damage proc of 30% of the attack minus the foe's res stat. Alrighty, so Fallen Female Corrin is still very much a solo type unit. Having one nearby ally is acceptable, but generally, she should be all alone as a one-man army. This super solo condition means it's very tough to support Corrin with the usual drive type abilities. She'll be annoying when alone, but it's tough to back her up with your own team. At full power, Corrin can amass plus 11 all stats, so you have a ton of freedom for builds. She comes with attack and speed solo 3, and you have free customization options for solo sacred seals if you just want to further boost stats. With this type of build, no follow-up shines to completely screw over slower units, and Savage Breath is also granting bonuses like debuff neutralization, and you get damage reduction. This Corrin may not have Negating Fang to mess around with, but if the enemy can't stop regular damage reduction skills, then Fallen Corrin will be quite annoying still. For other options, dragons have gotten some amazing flexibility because Corrin can just run Distant Counter as a Sacred Seal if you want. She has the stats, so why not? If you want to double down on Dragon's Wrath, you can with the B slot for more damage reduction and more first hit damage. Maybe try this out with a Steady or Darting Breath type setup. As for more consistent DR, you can also take Dragon Wall. You may want to use some res boosting skills though. For other options, you have all the freedom of the infantry class too, so lows are fine as well. Desperation Advantage are cheap. You can run all of these with the Null Follow-up Sacred Seal. There is a no res based variant, but you could even use the Bulwark skills to block enemies, although I think Bulwark works better when you can have the team stay somewhat near you. Another option could be Finish 4. It's not as synergistic as new Halloween Corrin with Negating Fang / Shield Pulse, but it has a 3 space range, which technically works with Savage Breath, and Corrin can still get some healing sustain with ton of stats. In the C slot, Tier 4 smokes are once again all good choices. More damage reduction with Speed Smoke or block and follow-up attack with Attack Smoke. Attack and Speed or Res Menace are other options. With Attack and Res Menace, for example, you can improve Dragon's Wrath's damage, and you can take this further with Seal Res 4. You could even have quite an annoying setup with Attack and Res Menace granting debuffs, which then activates Seal Res 4's guard effect, plus you have a million res debuffs going on. You can even run no follow-up as a seal, because that's just how many options Corrin has. Crazy. Overall, not a super fancy weapon, and maybe not for everyone due to these solo conditions. It's a bit tougher to make work, especially if you want to use something more defensive like Distant Counter. Regardless though, if you don't mind a unit completely off all on their own, then Fallen Female Corrin will continue to be that solo raid boss. Our fourth refine goes to Petra, also skipping in the 3 houses line. She's a blue flying dagger unit, and Hunting Blade got some real nice new effects. This 14-might dagger still accelerates specials and is effective against beast units. If Petra is within 3 spaces of an ally, she gets plus for all stats. At start of combat, if Petra has less attack, speed, defense, or res than an ally within 3 spaces, grant plus 6 to that stat during combat, calculate each stat independently. You also treat Petra stats as 4 less for that calculation, which is a good buff. In general, Hunting Blade retains its original spirit of Petra learning from other units. The range is bumped up to 3 spaces, the comparison is more in Petra's favor, and even if you fail the check, Petra's gonna get plus for all stats regardless. For the refined portion, if Petra has more than 25% HP, she gets another plus for all stats, offense no follow-up, and if the foe is full health, Petra is initiating, she also gets no guard and 60% damage reduction for 1 hit. Dang, that's not bad at all. With this refined, Petra can get at least plus 8 to all stats, with room for another plus 6 if nearby allies have higher on-field stats than Petra. You have offense no follow-up to double tanks, and 60% DR to tank a hit, along with the extra defense and res from the weapon itself. Petra then combines accelerated specials with no guard, which is very valuable for a flyer. All of this makes her a very solid attacker, and you can snipe those beast units as well. Only thing to watch out for is that the stat check with the allies is at start of combat. Petra has some decent speed, so that one might be tough to top unless you have an even faster ally. 3 spaces is generous, but you still need to be somewhat near your teammates. Then for the no guard and damage reduction parts, you need to initiate against full HP targets, no splash damage skills, and no enemy phase usage. Couple things to watch out for, but still a fantastic refine. In terms of builds, since we get to fight full health enemies, catch skills naturally fit Hunting Blade, plus you got dagger debuffs for extra insurance. With the pretty sizable damage reduction, you can go with Far Trace for Kanto. There are other options I'll talk about though. As usual, Reigns and Hold debuffs are also good C skills here. Now, something to keep in mind for general usage is that while 60% DR is good, it ain't 100% damage reduction. That would be crazy. Hunting Blade has that 25% HP condition to upkeep, so you might not be able to keep all the effects going into a second round. You could run Wind Sweep here. It may seem awkward, but no damage taken is better than damage reduction, although there are cases where you want to get hit to charge up your special. With no guard, Petra's special options are increased, and for example, you can proc Luna for sure on the second hit if she takes a counterattack. Now, if you liked Petra's base kit, you can kind of keep it intact. She has arrow bags for warping, but you can replace this via Oath 4C skills. You can then shift ground orders into the Sacred Seal slot to keep the team mobile, and you can help Hunting Blade get its extra stats. With this, you now have the B slot open, and while usually this slot is pretty bare bones besides Kanto or Desperation, I think Petra can also use Seal Defense 4 if you just want more damage. If you got debuffs active, Guard would protect her from specials, and she would almost always survive with that 60% DR. You then get the extra damage from the debuffs as well. Another interesting choice is Mystic Boost 4, mainly for the 10 HP heal to keep Hunting Blade active. It could let Petra fight off those annoying healers, and the attack debuff also keeps her HP high enough. This could then also synergize with things like Heavy Blade, since that's one of the options to actually run or proc lethality. With that said though, I think Petra can get away with Quicken Pulse, albeit it's only for one single fight. With Quicken Pulse, lethality goes to 2 cooldown. With no guard, you can simply attack, get hit back, and trigger lethality on the second hit. This is better than Heavy Blade because Heavy Blade can be countered by no special charge in that scenario. The trade-off is that Quicken Pulse works one time. If you can get yourself someone like Lord Asker though, with the team-wide times pulse, then that's another option. Now, since Hunting Blade is effective against beast units, I would also consider Ruptured Sky. One turn Ruptured Sky will always proc on hit number 2, and this can be used with Wind Sweep since you aren't getting hit back. I won't guarantee this setup kills Fallen Edelgard, but Petra seems well equipped to try it. If you use Wind Sweep, you also don't get clapped back if you fail the KO. That is also relevant since the newest banner is a bunch of dual phase Brave Weapon users. Petra might be able to tank one hit with 60% DR, but Brave Weapons double tap, and I'm not sure if she can live through that. While there is room to go for the big lethality proc, you do need to risk getting hit. Hunting Blade does provide a good job at giving Petra a lot of options to plan her attack. I think she can definitely give Mr. Summerclad a run for his money. That will be it for part 1 of the update 6.11 new refines, a couple of interesting effects for our first 4 units, and let me know your thoughts on these weapons. Will you be spending your Divine Dew on any of them, and share your own build plans with everyone else. Next up, coming in part 2, we'll be talking about Duo Hector, Legendary Eliwood, and Mythic Yoon. We have some spicy remixes to talk about. When that video is ready, I'll have it linked in the end card description and my pinned comment. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon.